Good afternoon. This is Barbara, the East Coast Dragon Lady, coming to you actually in the week. I was not on at the weekend, as I think I mentioned. I have my family visiting from England, so I've been playing tourist, been out and about. We haven't had very good weather. That's sort of typical of me to take some time off, and then the weather decides to be chilly, cold, rainy. We've had some interesting, catching between the downpours. But I had the morning off. My brother and his wife are actually going to go and play tourist around Vermont and out in Western Mass. So they're off tomorrow for about a week, and then they'll be back at the end of their 3 weeks and spend a few more days with us. So, but I wanted to jump on as well. So a couple of things have transpired during all this time. One, of course, for me is I don't have any other family in this country, so it's been nice to have family visiting, especially my brother. It's just him and I now. And it sort of makes me it doesn't make me homesick. It just makes me realize the importance of family. And as we get older, like staying in touch and, all that good stuff. So a few sort of trips down memory lane. We've been talking about our parents. We've been talking about things when we were kids, which I sort of miss, I guess, because I don't have that opportunity very often, even though we regularly do FaceTime together. It's not the same as actually being in person. But then you also realize, so that's good. So what I've realized, I've been posting my each day the messages that come up, and the Atlantis dragons have come up now for about 4 days, I think 4 or 5 days. It's either been Jason about protection, or today was Pythagoras, who was talking about music and astronomy. And I just thought it was interesting. So I thought I would Google or AI Atlantis dragons and the meaning. And it was powerful wisdom, spiritual guidance, and transformation. And I think that speaks to the dragons in general coming in. So if I'm looking crooked, it's because I've got my arm up here. It is about the dragons. Why are they coming in? Why now? And we've been asking that question for a few years. So I think even more so. But it feels to me like they're bringing in, they actually showed me the other day that it was like an umbrella. So you've heard me say that I've been getting these messages of shields up. So this was umbrellas. They were showing me that it's like a dome that they're putting over us. So it's over the whole of the earth. They're putting a dome of protection. But over us, it's like, imagine you have an umbrella over you. And at the same time that I'm getting sort of more information from the Atlantis dragons, which again are usually big, huge dragons. A lot of them chose to go off planet when Atlantis sunk the last time. So it's not surprising they're coming back because we need them. But it's about, so what was I going to say? It is, about self-protection, protecting the earth, the shields up, so protection. And then my son has been working with somebody on his issues, and some of them, I've mentioned my son has significant mental health issues, but there's been some other things going on, and he's been working with somebody that has also been working with me. And what's really fascinating is that I've never before, so we realized that we've had past life together, past life entanglements, because when I was trying to read his Akashic records, I couldn't go any further because they were saying that it was we were entangled. It was too that. And I've actually seen several times now, times when I was his mother. There was a time when he was actually mute in a lifetime, but he could speak, but he was with, so as his mother, I died in childbirth, and he had nobody to speak to him, so he never spoke, he never used his voice. So not surprising he has throat chakra issues. But, and it's literally, it seems to be at dinner time. I'll be sitting at the dinner table with him and suddenly I'll get a message. And I've shared a couple of those, or I'll get like literally click and I'm back in a past life. But yesterday or the day before, and these happened, so for example, I can't remember when, but I think it wasn't yesterday, it was the day before. He'd been complaining of, so he hears voices and sees things, and he was complaining that it felt like something was getting in. And I immediately heard, he has a tear in his aura and you need to fix it. And I was like, okay. So I looked at his aura, and sure enough, there was a big tear in his aura. And they were like, that's where entities are able to get in. So you need to make sure that he's clear and close that. So I was doing that, and while I was doing it, he actually said to me, can't you bring in the dragons? Can't the dragons come and help you? And immediately there was this huge, beautiful midnight blue, iridescent, wings open, and inside his wings, the blue was slightly different. It was a lighter blue, but it was still shimmery, sparkly. And he came in immediately and brought in what he told me was Blu-ray healing. And I'm like, I know about that. I know about the Blu-ray healing. And then my son said, well, who is it? Who is the dragon? So I asked him, and he said he was Azrael, which is an archangel. But as some of you may know, and certainly I've been shown, that archangels can shapeshift and become dragons, and dragons, they can shapeshift. But for this particular time, he was bringing in the energy of Azrael, which, and again, I couldn't remember at the time, like where I'd encountered Israel, what I knew about him, but we sort of thanked him and said, thank you. And then, of course I start Googling, and he was deemed the angel of death, but they said to me, it's not about dying. So my son has multiple times tried to end his life. So what they shared with me was that every time he was near to death, Azrael, as an archangel, would come and pull him back from the brink of death. And they were like, that's why he's shown up. That's why he's here. And he's always been with him. It's one of his archangels, which just given me like chills when it was like, don't worry about, the Grim Reaper, the archangel of death, because death is just another stage in our lives. We know that. And they showed me like bringing him back from the brink of death, and that he is one of his archangels. So it was like an amazing experience, not just as a mom, but as somebody who practices energy work and has a connection with dragons, to actually, being again brought to something that I needed to understand. And actually, the person that's doing the work actually said that maybe that's, again, I'm learning a lot of things like, why are the dragons been working with me? It's maybe that this was the work you were supposed to do. So, sometimes we think, oh, what am I here for? What modalities am I supposed to do? And for me, it seems like I'm here to do a lot of healing on myself, understand myself, but also to help my son. That may mean other people as well, or maybe to help mother, son, that have that, because, we're all in a soul contract. We all come, this is what I believe, we all have come in to play some role in our soul group. And this time, again, I'm his mother. And I think this, for me, this is, I'm in a completion cycle. And he also feels that he probably is as well. So, it may be that we have to end this by, working together to help what's going on with him, but also for me to use my healing powers, right? And then yesterday, and this is maybe why it all happened. So I live quite close to Salem, Massachusetts, which is the Salem witch trials. And because it wasn't a very nice day, we decided to go to the PB and Essex Museum. which has a lot of information on Salem witch trials. And while I was there, it was, I guess I'm going to say, so I kept thinking, I had sort of like almost like an out of body experience, but I also get motion sickness. So it was sort of like I was there and I was like, I've had this feeling before. And I realized it was sort of almost because probably I was like slightly out of my body. I'm not sure, but I also know that I was probably, and there's the area that I live in or have lived in for many, many years since I've lived here, is all the towns that were involved in the Salem witch trials. And some of you know some about my story, but before I moved to the United States, I hadn't touched energy work at all. I was a nurse, so clearly I was hands-on healing, I was using that modality, but I hadn't stepped into energy work, anything like till I came to the United States. And we lived in a town that was on the path when they used to get witches out of Salem. There was alleged underground tunnels, I will say. But I lived in one of the towns that had tunnels going underneath it, which was sort of the end where they would then get them to, get out. So there's been a lot of connections for me ever since I arrived in the United States. I know I've had a time, being punished as a healer. And I felt very much yesterday that this sort of, it was a remembering, and it was like, I don't feel what, and, there was a lot of, a very interesting, I learned more about it, that I knew some of it, but there was a lot of big paintings depicting the women who, and there was one that said, if there was any blemishes on a woman's skin, then it was called, what did they call them? Witches' teats. So like a mole. They were then like, oh, you're a witch because you've got a blemish. And it was like a mass hysteria as well, this whole thing in a very small area. And I thought it was like everywhere, but it was in a very small area and it involved about 5 or 6 towns where everybody started to believe that women in particular were witches, and they had some horrible deaths, or they were imprisoned and died in prison. So it was just interesting how I actually felt, because I didn't think at the time, oh, we're going to Salem. I know some of you have told me that you wouldn't even set foot in Salem because of that sort of, oh, what memories is it going to bring back? Now, did that trigger what happened last night? I don't know. I go with, as you know, when the dragons say do this, I do it. Which, so before I end, I will also say that I'm actually going to do something that I haven't done before. I don't think it's been done before. But I met this couple of people out in the western part of Massachusetts where I went to the expo, and they do past life regression. And they have invited me back they was asking me back actually for a day to do something with dragons in that area, maybe give a talk, sell my oracle deck, maybe do some readings. And then we hit on this thing about past life regression. So I'm going out there for the Friday night and Saturday. Friday night we're going to go to something that's already arranged with somebody out there, where I will probably have my oracle deck. I think that's to do, nothing has been published yet. But what we hit on was, they asked me, because I was talking about how I've done past life regression 2 or 3 times, and how fascinated I was about life between lives. And they said, are you up for doing a past life regression in front of an audience? And we can bring your dragons forward, and we can talk to the dragons. And I'm like, how cool is that? So we're going to try it. There will be some flyers going up. It's in June. It's next month. It is out in Western Mass. So for some of you, you're in different parts of the country or in another country. I don't know if it's going to be recorded, but I will certainly tell you about it after it's happened. I think they're very confident that they can put me in a past life regression. So I've been told that I've had dragons with me all my lifetimes, so it shouldn't be too difficult to tap into the dragons. Last time I did a past life regression, I channeled Merlin for the person that had regressed me. She was interested in Merlin, and I channeled Merlin while I was in a past life regression. So I have no doubt that we're going to tap into to dragons, and then they're going to ask questions, or the audience can ask questions. And if you've done past regression, you're sort of present, but you're not. So that would be interesting, and maybe that's something. I know people like, actually Lee Harris just had a thing. He channels the Z's, and he's written several books where he channels the Z's and they write it down. And there's podcasts, and actually his books are in audio as well. So I find all of that fascinating. So a slightly different direction for me. But that would be awesome to actually channel the dragons and ask questions and get their answers, because I hear them and channel them. But for me to do it directly would be pretty interesting. So I think that's it for now. The fairies are very active. I think that's here in the northeast, where it's much cooler than it should be. It's been wet, torrential rain. We've got a system that's stored over us. So I don't know when it's going to warm up, but it's been in the 50s the last couple of days. So the fairies aren't too active outside. I did purchase some fairies. I've decided I want to do a fairy garden. But ever since then, so I've got some fairies to put out in my garden. Actually, I'm going to do herbs this year. So I'm not quite sure where they're going to go. But I've got some fairy lights coming for outside as well today. So when it stops raining and it's not so cold, I will be out doing that. I'll take some pictures and show you. But I just thought it would be cool to have some little fairies and see what happens with putting fairies in my garden. We know they're there. I mean, if you've seen some of my pictures from when I went on a walk a couple of days ago, before it got cold, the fairies were everywhere. They were showing me circles. It was all about circles and rings, and they were talking about fairy rings, fairy circles. They got me taking pictures of, it was stones with moss growing on it. As so interesting that we were in the circles. I'm also in a group where we meet in a circle. We talk a lot about the rings, and rings of protection, rings, circles. So I feel still very immersed in the fairies. And interestingly, I haven't really come across too many fairy dragons. They're definitely there. That's what they pulled me in. They were like, we have fairy dragons, come in and talk to us. But I feel their energy is, interestingly, very direct. It's not like, oh, well, this is just a message. It's like, these are messages, people will receive them if they need them. I think there's it's very direct. That's how I feel. And I know and they call themselves the wee ones when they talk to me. So again, it's a collective. I seem to connect to collectives. So interesting. I mean, there will be the ones that, because I need to know, they will tell me who they are. I was wearing a dragonfly. I had a t-shirt with a dragonfly on it the other day. So, there's all those things that are going to start happening. The birds have been arriving from, their long trips. So I've been bird watching. It's also brought out all the other wildlife, unfortunately. So I think that's all for now. I will probably jump on at the weekend and do a weekly message. But right now, I would say we've got a lot of protection from the Atlantis dragons. Atlantis is rising, I'm hearing again. They're showing me that it's coming up. The energy is coming down. And we just need to be aware. It's all about protecting ourselves. That's sort of what I clearly have been getting, that it's like, go in, self-soothe, and be aware of the other energies, because if you're too open, too much can come in, which can interfere with us, which makes sense, right? So I hope everybody has a good rest of the week. It's only Tuesday. I'll be back to work tomorrow, and I've got a busy rest of the week. So I hope you have a good week, and I'll be back soon.